So the video I did before this was about shoplifting, and a video I just showed mass shoplifting in California, like the gatherings of groups of people stealing stuff. And I gave some commentary on that in there, and I got a lot of comments. Most of them are positive. I appreciate that a lot of people understand the situation. Now, I want to preface that I'm not advocating necessarily for these mass shoplifting portions. I'm not against it because I understand why it's happening. And if you don't understand what's happening, you need to look into it more. And I kind of went over a little bit of that in the previous video, but I wanted to go over some of the negative comments that were left. And I'm not going to be putting them in, like, replying to them via video, because there were just a few. So we're going to go over a couple of individually, and starting with, somebody said starting at a low wage and working way up isn't cool, and image isn't too important to this group. Then they drive out the business in their area and screw the people that actually want to work and better themselves. They should all be doing time in jail for that. So there is no more working your way up anymore in our system. It's not existent. You cannot get a job working at Walmart and then become well off enough to be able to sustain. It is going to be years upon years before you even make it to management. By that time, the wage is not going to be enough to offset the loss you've had in between. There is no more working yourself up to get to a better position. It doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't for a while. If you don't understand that, you're really showing your age with that comment, or your ignorance, one of the two. Next was, so you're saying more should steal? I'm not saying more people should shoplift. What I said was, I understand why it's happening. And if that's going to be what gets businesses to get attention to the issue, to do something different, then maybe that's what needs to happen. Or if it's going to bring attention to the general public, that's what needs to happen. Moving on, somebody said, I get it, but theft is against the law, and we have to be safe when shopping. Looters were shot during the LA riots. Not worth it. This wasn't the LA riots. As far as we know, these rioters were not armed. Nobody was in any danger. And beyond that, if you don't understand the situation, you've never worked retail. When you work in retail, you're told not to stop anybody stealing. I've worked many retail jobs. You're not allowed to chase people, stop them, tackle them, nothing. I was told explicitly when I worked retail, if I stopped someone and they even claimed they got hurt, I would be fired and the store would get sued, and I could get sued. So no, they were safe. Nothing was wrong there. And this is not a riot. These aren't looters in a riot. This is a different situation. Moving on to the next one. So because they can't, I'm assuming they meant can't afford it. It says can't afford, but can't afford it. It's okay to shoplift them. Agree, they should pay more. The store should pay more. And no, I do agree within reason. I've specified this in other videos. If you just need food and you can't afford it and shoplifting is your only option, then by all means, I'm not going to stop you. And even at that, if a kid is in a store stealing candy or stealing a toy, I'm going to turn a blind eye to it, because it doesn't matter anymore. The same people, and this is going to be another comment, so we'll move forward. Somebody put, I'm assuming a business owner, I've tossed brand new items because I can't sell them and it's not worth driving to the Salvation Army and waiting to do the taxes. See, that person's a part of the problem. They don't have to drive to the Salvation Army. I know this is a business owner. I can either drive the stuff myself, which I do to save thrift stores time when I'm being nice, because I don't completely support thrift stores because of their stuff. That's a whole nother topic. But you can call thrift stores to come pick up your goods. Business owners have it really easy, especially retail ones. But even so, you don't have the time. I'm a business owner and I'm busy and I make the time. How many employees do you have? Those kind of things. But it looks like you're doing it for the tax write-off. And you saying you're not going to wait to the end to do taxes, then that's just poor business management. What you should be doing is donating it and writing it off, because you can do both if you don't know that. You can get a receipt from the thrift company or thrift organization, or wherever you donated it, showing that you donated it, claiming a value, and then you can write it off on your tax at the end of the year. You have time. That's a non-issue. Next was, somebody said, think McFly, it's not the corporations that are taking the hit. Think McFly, it's not the corporation I did that twice. Sorry, taking a hit. It's the rest of us that are paying for it. No, we're paying for it and we're not. They're raising prices in retail because they can. They don't care about the fact that shoplifting's happening. It's an excuse for them. Why don't you go look into the bonuses that these executives pay themselves, and you'll see it's far more than what the shrink is combined. Somebody says justifying chaos and anarchy is stupid and destructive. They put as, but I think they meant and. Once this is normalized, the animals devolve profit as motive. Shut up. I'm not entirely sure what they meant there, but this is the only thing that's going to get attention to these issues. That's the thing, right? When people understand there are more of us than there are corporate leaders, there will be a shift, and that's what's going to happen. Somebody says, you're crap. Employees and theft are not the same. People are in the stores when this happened. You sound like you would join them. I don't know that I would join them necessarily, and I have my own personal reasons for that, but I'm not going to stop them. And they weren't putting anybody in danger. And no, employees and theft are the same in this respect. And here's why. I know that sounds odd. The employees are being cheated, and the people stealing are tired of being cheated. That's why this is happening. If you don't understand that, you're really out of touch. Next says, so instead of fighting for change and trying to make the world a better place, just burn it all down and each for their own. Mad Max, right? It already is each for their own. Nobody can support each other. And these companies aren't helping anybody. It is. Somebody left a positive comment saying, part of Walmart's pay plan is making sure their employees have access to welfare. Think about that. Last comment I've got here says, RoboCops will soon be deployed and have the right to kill people. But those people are getting paid to steal. So the conspiracy portion was that there were a couple of days that those people were paid to steal. They're not. I don't buy into that. I'm not going to knock your comment for it, like remove it or anything, but they were being paid by the state that wrote the laws. No, that's incorrect. As far as the RoboCops being deployed, no, they do. There's one state, I forget where it's at. They want to put a police substation in a Walmart or something like that, but that's not going to help the problem. You're going to end up seeing that the cops are going to be making rash decisions. The idea, this is what's disgusting, the idea that people should be unalived for shoplifting is what's wrong with a lot of people. Look, shoplifting can be bad. It can, but it just doesn't. It's a non-issue. It really is. Again, I quoted the number before. I think it was 226 million reported in shrink by Walmart, and they made billions of dollars. Also, somebody else brought up in the comments, and I made this comment a few times, they get money back for their loss through insurance. They can make a claim on that. Loss prevention is there because they have to show that they made an effort to try to recover the goods or stop it from happening. If they don't show an effort to prevent theft, to stop theft, or recover thefted items, they can't make an insurance claim. That's why they have that. Loss prevention departments are awful things, and they usually employ people who want to be cops but couldn't be, or other people who have this wrong sense of justice. I get it. I was there. I understand. I used to have that mentality of we have to stop these shoplifters. But in my own experience and looking at actual statistics and numbers, knowing that shoplifting is a minor issue, it really does change your perspective when you understand that. So please think twice about these things. Anyway, I wanted to get the response to the comments out. That video's got a lot of attention. I appreciate it, guys. If you have any questions on that, let me know.